Ladies and gentlemen, it's Monday, August 29th, and I'm back. Hello! I am back. It's been a while since I've streamed, and I thought I'd kick it off again by changing the format up. So, up till now, the general theme has been daily code, and that's what I've called the streams and the videos on YouTube. And turns out, I can't actually stream every day. I want to, but often I'm too busy doing other stuff or out at conferences or whatever. So I'm not going to call it daily code anymore. I'm just going to say what it is. And for example, today is mostly JavaScript. So that's what we're doing. A while ago, I built a thing in JavaScript, and I will show you what it looks like. So you can see, let me get a link to it. Actually, I can probably look for it here. So, wow, terminal take long. Okay, source, assertchris. No, it's not that. It's theory, designer. So, I need to give it a different port. What is the thing here? Hold on, am I in the right view? I'm totally not in the right view. There we go. There we go. Okay, how do we do a port on here? It's serve-p, and then we give just a different port number. I already have something running at 3000. So, localhost 3001. Kapow! Okay. So, a while ago, I was asked to do a Minecraft booth game, and I streamed a little bit about what I was doing with that, but what I didn't stream about was making this beautiful thing. What this is a 3D world editor, hence the title of the stream. And the idea is that you should be able to create blocks on this. So you should be able to build different structures, and the end goal is to export them to Minecraft or to import Minecraft world data into here. And that's what I'm trying to do. The reason I bring this up is because I have to write an article, or I want to write an article rather, for SitePoint, the JavaScript channel, which I haven't written for before. And I thought I would do kind of a dual focus, in that I would write a JavaScript version of things to demonstrate this lovely bit here, and I would write a PHP version which would plug this into an actual server as kind of like a PHP Minecraft mod. So today I'm doing the JavaScript thing, or starting on the JavaScript thing, and because I've already got this built, I actually just want to refine the code and build it up incrementally. And I thought that it would be good to get examples in CodePen as well as in an example repository, which I have set up. So I think I'm going to start on that. I won't start on CodePen right away, although, I mean, I'll leave this here and I'll just come back to it and paste the code in there. What I do want to do is adjust my windows a little bit so I can actually see what's going on. Just resizing windows. Okay, now I can see a little bit more what's going on. So if you have chat questions, you can ask them. Feel free. Okay, so to begin with, there's a lot of theory that I'm not going to talk about. I'm not going to talk about positioning elements in HTML, though I'm going to use it. I'm not going to talk about 3D transformations in CSS, but I'm going to use them. And hopefully they'll work and they won't break and I won't struggle to do them. I'd also like to point out, because it's been asked and said on YouTube in the last sort of few days, that sometimes it's kind of frustrating to watch the show, and I'm sorry about that. These shows aren't supposed to be a tutorial for you. Often I'll use them as research for a tutorial that I write later. Often I'll use them just to learn something new, and that's not always going to be productive, and sometimes it's going to be frustrating for you to watch and for me to do. But the purpose of the show, first and foremost, is for me to learn. It forces me to spend an hour or so writing code every day. So that's what the purpose is. Okay, back. Sorry for the sidetrack. I'll come back now. So I'm not going to talk about positioning of elements, absolute, relative, fixed, all that stuff. I'm not going to talk about transformations, 2D and 3D, but I'm going to use them. And the first thing that I want to do is set up a basic block. So doc type HTML, because this is going to be an HTML document. This code size looks very small. I'll make it a bit bigger. Can I? Well, how does that look? Is that big enough? Yeah, it looks alright. Let me know if you want the font any bigger. HTML with the language, because habit, and then close HTML. Okay. So we're going to need some styles, which I'll put just in the head. I won't make a separate style sheet for that. And I'll get to that in a little bit. And then, because it's an HTML document, let's give it a body. Body. It's very Swedish. Okay. I have gone ahead and downloaded jQuery 3.1 Slim, which you'll see on the right-hand side. Oh, I can't even point that high. My finger gets cut off. jQuery 3.1 Slim. That is the only dependency for the code I'm going to work on. Sort of. That's one of the dependencies, actually, because I need another one. I've just remembered. But let's load that in. So jQuery 3.1 Slim min.js. So many full stops. Okay. The next thing I've just remembered that I need is a library called Transit, which is a little bit of a compatibility layer to set 3D transformations through JavaScript. Woohoo! So let's get that as well. jQuery Transit. Oh, Transit.js. I have no idea what version this is. 0. Let me find that version number quickly. Because habit 0912. Okay, I'll just rename this then. Because why not? I'm doing that with jQuery. And this should be transit 0912.js. It's actually a .min file as well. So let me go and rename it. So pedantic. Okay. jQuery 3.1, jQuery transit 0912, both are min, and we will have we'll load some of our own script files in there, and hopefully you can see, on the right hand side, yeah, I've defined some, but they're all empty. But I'm going to load them in anyway, because we're going to put stuff in them. So let's see, there's block, which I'll put first, because a few others will use it. There is block cobblestone. I'll make a second one, which is block dirt, because why not? Oh, I've already got that file there. Okay. Block dirt, events. And then, well, I don't know if I want to do a separate events file or not, or just put the stuff straight in the document. I think I'll just put this straight in the document, because it's more than events. It's initialization as well, and I don't know if it'll fit that well in a separate window. Okay, how's everything looking? All right, so here's a basic structure. Let's make a scene element. Okay. So some basic body stylings. Whoa, what happened there? Some basic body again. I must have been touching the trackpad. Basic body stylings, margin 0, padding 0. I don't even think I need margin 0 these days. Font family, Helvetica sans serif, because who cares about Windows? Maybe we should we quote these? I don't remember what's best practice anymore. Font family, color, whatever, I don't need that. I will do width 100 and height 100, because I'm going to have a fully stretched element, which is the scene. So scene, this is position absolute. Oh. Alarm, left 0, top 0, width. I'll just copy this. Whee. There we go. Now I need to think to myself, because this is, I do use the scene in an interesting way. Let me show you how I use this just to begin with. Let's set a background on this. Background RGBA, red, whatever, 100. Okay, let's look what this looks like. But let's also start up a new server for this. Tutorials, JavaScript. Serve. Oh, can't do it at that same port. There we go. Okay. Pow! Okay, it's very pink. That's because the scene is fully stretched to 100%, 100%. I can actually, I don't know if I should undo that or not. I don't know if I should undo that. I don't remember the exact code, but I want to try and figure it out without looking at my previous code. So I think for now what I'll do is I'll set a fixed width and height on it of 800 by 800. And I'll set it up so that it's aligned. 0, auto, and although, is that the right way to do that? No, it's not. Minus 400 pixels. Top, right, bottom, minus 400 pixels, because I want to vertically align this, which means I have to do that as well. Whee! Will this work? Sort of works. Let's make it a little bit smaller. So let's make these 300 and this 600. Just want it to be a nice size that fits in the screen. Okay, so is that a pink? Okay. Now here's the magic. If you've done no CSS transformation, here's the magic. And it's not me drinking fruit juice on live stream. It is that you should be able to go WebKit, transform origin. It actually has a good transform origin to begin with, but what we want is WebKit transform in this case. So WebKit transform, rotate X 30 degrees, rotate Y 30 degrees. Here's the magic. If you've never seen this before, this is going to be fantastic to you. Pow! Okay, that doesn't exactly work like I wanted to. But you get the point. This is actually rotating, which is really cool. I'm going to size this down even more because reasons. So let's make this 400 by 400 because I'm kind of interested in playing with this a little bit. Okay, so have a look at the scene. It's slightly rotated, and it's rotated using CSS. And we can actually change the rotation of this via some inputs and via dragging and scrolling. And if we get to that point, it'll be cool for me to show you how that works. I don't know if we'll get that far in this stream, because I'm not planning to stream for very long, but I just wanted to show you this just to begin with, okay? So let's put this off for now. We'll come back to it because it's interesting and we'll need to be able to rotate the scene sometime. In fact, for the sake of style, I have to put this on its own line and indent it. Okay, so this should be blank now again. Okay. Now, the thing that we want to do is you remember back to the example that I showed you, the interactive example. There were a lot of blocks, and we could place blocks and we could remove blocks. I don't think I showed you that. But we could place and we could remove, and there was ghosting. I want to get back to that point. So to begin with, we need to create some kind of block primitive. I'll say use strict here, though I'm not sure why I need to do that right now. Because this isn't going to be compiled, and the browser I don't think needs that, unless I use let variables. I think if I use let, it's going to complain that I don't use strict. Let's try that out. Let foo is bar. Are you going to moan at me, Chrome? Dun dun dun. No, you don't moan at me. It's weird. Anyway, I'll put it in anyway, because some people do moan about it, and certainly CodePen's going to moan about it. At least JS Fiddle does, and JS bin. I don't know. Okay. Class block. Now, we're going to do some ES6 syntax. Class is the first of them. And if it confuses you, I'm sorry. But I'm not going to go into too much detail about it or the alternatives to it from traditional JavaScript point of view. There is a really cool resource you can use to figure out any of this stuff. If you type in a search bar, MDN, and then the keyword that you're looking for, not class list, because MDN class. If you get to Mozilla Developer Network, this is the best reference that you can use for anything JavaScripty. Here it'll show you what that looks like, and it'll explain some stuff about what's actually going on, like constructors and setters and getters. It's a pretty good resource. So if you're struggling with something JavaScripty or something I'm using confuses you, type MDN and then the keyword that you're confused about or you want to know more about, and you will learn it. You will learn it. All right. So class block. There are a few things that I need to define for each block. Now in Minecraft that this editor is based on, there is this coordinate space that everything in the world adheres to. Every block is at a coordinate. And the coordinates are X, Y, and Z. It's a three-dimensional game. And if we want to replicate the logic that we're used to thinking in terms of in Minecraft, we have to try and replicate the unit system as well. We're going to use blocks that are roughly sized 64 by 64 pixels, because that's the size of the textures that we have, which I will show you just now. But what I want to do is actually translate the sizing so that we can just use single units, and that single unit, block at position 3, actually means 3 times or 2 times 64 pixels from a zero-based coordinate system. Okay, that's the plan. So constructor, we want an X, we want a Y, and we want a Z coordinate, or Z, depending on where you are from in the world. This X is X, this Y is Y, this Z is Z. I have memories of doing this on stream. I wonder if I've done this before. Hold on while I go check YouTube. Just before I go too deep into this topic, I don't think I've done this exact topic before though. I know I've done a lot of Minecraft stuff actually, but let's have a look here quickly. I don't think I've done this exact topic before. Refactoring a Laravel app, Minecraft community server, talking to Minecraft with PHP, Minecraft fractals. No, I haven't. Fantastic. We can carry on with the stream. Okay, so X, Y, and Z coordinate, we will translate these into the position on the canvas. It also means that our canvas or our scene needs to be sized in multiples of 64 pixels. Okay, fine. But we'll get to that later. All that we're interested in now is drawing a single block. So, block constructor. Let's see. What else did I need for this? We need a way to get the textures for a block. Now, the texture pack that I have, or that I'm going to use, is called Sphax Pure BD Craft, and it is a fantastic texture pack. It has a lot of seamless textures and a lot of different options for random block texture, so it looks great. It doesn't look too procedural when you use that texture pack in Minecraft. But we need to have a way to get the texture for a side of the block. We're going to have blocks with 6 sides, and the usual pattern that we'll have is that we'll at least have a top texture, the texture you see when you look at the block from the top, and a side texture, and any random configuration of side textures. So let's make a texture method, and let's say that we have a side parameter that is going to be a string value for what side of the block it is. I'm just going to use simple strings to do this. I'm not going to create a set of constant values or something like that. I'll just use strings for this. So texture side, if side is top, let's say for instance, then return a CSS color value, RGBA, because this is the base block, right? RGBA, and we'll say, we'll give it a green one. So 100, 255, 100, 0.9. Okay. Otherwise, let's just return brown. So what is the RGB color for brown? Brown. That's amazing. Okay. Saddle brown, sure. Saddle brown. That is the color for us. We can just copy these values here. That's amazing. Right, saddle brown. Now this gets us the texture for each side, but we have to build it as well. We have to build a block, right? And some blocks will have different kinds of configurations that have to be built in. But let's just go for the simplest, which is 6 sides, all of the same size, with different rotations. Okay. Let's say build. And here we assume our dependency on jQuery. I'm not going to import it or require it here because I don't want to use browserify at the moment. I want to keep this simple. But let's say build. Okay. Now, we have to give a container element for this. So let's say let container is document create element. I can actually use jQuery for this. I think jQuery will be fine for this. Yes, jQuery will be fine for this. Okay, so let's say this is div class block, and it's self-closing. Okay, now we have to have a way to render this, right? This is just going to be, this is just the container. What I do want to do is X, Y, and Z axes. So I am going to have 3 blocks in here. And I'll say X axis, Y axis, and Z axis. Why not? Let's copy this as well. X, Y, and Z. Right. Now, we also want to append to container. In fact, I'll say this is block. All right. Let's do that. Let's also say this block is block because we want to have a way to get this element out again. And block, return this block. I mean, we can say something like get block. But, you know, I mean, we don't even need to do that. Let's just keep this simple. Let's just keep it super, super, super simple. Okay. Here, let's say let first is new block. The x coordinate is 1, the y coordinate's 1, and the z coordinate is 1. And then let's get the document body and append the blocks element. Block, block. Okay, let's see what that gives us. Refresh. Error, block is not defined. First. Okay. What do we have here? Body, scene. Oh. Well, let's do that. And let's put this back in the middle. All the formatting. But I want to put the transformation off. And I also want to put the background color off. Okay. Now, we're not putting it in the scene. And I have no idea why. Dot scene, dot scene, dot scene. That's very interesting. Let me just go and check that I'm using the right jQuery function. No matter how often I look at these docs. Insertion inside. That does look like the correct thing. Script, let first is new block, scene append first block. Let's do some console debugging. Pow. Okay, you have a block. You have an element. So where is it? First block. Ah, that makes sense. I'm not actually saying that this needs to build yet. Okay, silly mistake, my bad. Here we go. Okay, here is a block. Now we don't have any dimensions on this. We don't have any styles on this. Why are color values 8 bits, but the alpha is a float? That is a very good question. Sinocron? Am I pronouncing that correctly? Sinocron? That's a very good question. I have no idea why they've chosen that. I presume it is because opacity used to be an attribute on its own and still is an attribute. So you can say opacity and give this a floating point value between 0 and 1. And that RGBA, it's just taken on that 0 to 1 opacity setting. But these have remained easily translatable to hexadecimal. I mean, you could, in theory, translate this to hexadecimal, right? But I think it's just because this relates more closely to the opacity settings, and this relates more closely to the hex color settings. There isn't, you could, for instance, say background RGB, and these are all 8-bit values as well. So I think it's just this meets opacity that is given that strange convention. But it's a good question. I mean, it seems strange that they're not all floats or all 8-bits. There you go. Who knows? Who knows is the question. I mean, the answer. Okay. Block. Okay, let's give this let's give this positioning and width and height. I'm not going to give it a top and a left, but I will say width is 64, height is 64. And what does this look like? Okay, there we go. So we have 64. But now this isn't what I want. This isn't exactly what I want. What I want is to be able to move these based on the X, the Y, and the Z. Here I'm just creating it, and it's being put at left 0 and top 0. And so it's up in the corner here, even though I can't see its colors yet. It's up in the corner here because that's the top of the scene. But what I want is to be able to move it around and to translate the 64 by 64 grid I'm using by whatever these values are. So I'm going to have another one that says a function called transform. And this is going to say, okay, I have some transformations that I can do to this element. And so I will get a reference to it to say this block. And I'm going to set some CSS properties on it. Now Transit, the library that I've got loaded in here, actually gives me the ability to have automatically prefixed transformation things. Because even though 3D transformations are supported in the Evergreen browsers pretty well, a lot of them have vendor prefixes that you need. So Transit's just a shortcut on that. You can say something like transform, let's see, translate. I'm actually going to use a template string for this if it's possible without a transpiler. So translate X by some values, translate Y by some values, translate Z by some values, or Z by some values. Okay. So what are these values? Well, let X is this X times 64. Just make it really simple for the moment. So X, Y, Z. Now, it's a 0-based coordinate system in CSS, but it's a 1-based, I guess. Well, I mean, it doesn't have to actually be a 1-based. We're defining it as 1, 1, 1. So let's imagine it's 0-based in our coordinate system in CSS and the same in our block coordinate system. This should actually be translated 64 pixels down and 64 pixels to the right. And also it should be lifted up from the scene by 64. That's the idea. Okay. So let's work with that. This will be X, Y, and Z, and let's put pixel values in there. I'm not sure if those are included or assumed, but I'll put them in anyway. So X, Y, and Z. Okay, let's start with this and see what we have. Any JavaScript errors? No, not exactly. Inspect. There's the scene. There's the block. It's not really styled differently, is it? Oh, that's right. I'm not calling transform on it. Okay. Let's transform. Okay. There's the scene. There's the block. Woo-hoo. That's pretty cool. Okay. Now, we have a basic coordinate system here, but it's still very 2D, right? It's still very 2D. What I want to have happen is let me rotate the scene a little bit. Let me put the stuff back in. And this color of pink is really jarring to me. I'll use that, maybe slightly lighter. I also have better default values for X and Y, which will give me a perspective on this. I don't think it's X and Y, I think it's X and Z that I use. But anyway. Not there, not there. Source, theory, designer, index. The values, X and Z, are both 60. Woohoo! Okay. So X, Z, 60. There we go. So now there's our scene. It's a little bit more perspective. And if I mouse over this, there's something strange going on. It is translated, but it's translating from this point here as the 0, 0. So that's fine. Also, it's difficult to see now because you think I'm confused about hexadecimal? Maybe I'm confused about hexadecimal. Sure. Right, so translate X, translate Z. That gives us a little bit of perspective, but what I'm not seeing is any sort of 3D shape to this block that we're starting with. So let's do that. Floats are still binary, which can be represented in hexadecimal. Yes, that's true. Cool. Okay, this block. I'm going to add the rest of these to this as well so that I can get access to them later. Is that? Oh, unintended consequence of selection. Okay. So what I really want to do is I want to change the, I don't know if I need to change the X, but I do need to change the Y and the Z. So let me do that. X, Y, Z. What I want to do is have these slightly bigger than the other sides. Let's get some styling on this so you can see what I'm talking about. Let's see, 66. Yeah. Yep. What am I doing? Okay. Let's put all of these as the same height and width. So X, Y axis, and Z axis. Oh. And I just have to give these slightly different colors. Wow, it really adds a lot of indentation to this. It's kind of bizarre. X, Y, Z, Z. And I can shift this along because I want these to be bright and very different from each other. There we go. Okay, so this should actually be a mess on the screen. Wowie, okay. So you see what it's doing there. What I need to do here is also put these all at the same position. And then they'll overlap. That's good. Okay. Now let's rotate these as well. So I don't want to rotate my x-axis. I just want to rotate the y and the z. So here I'll say transform. And here I just can do a normal string, rotate y by 90 degrees. And here, rotate z by 90 degrees. Oh, that didn't do it. So the translates work. The rotations don't. Do I need X and Z? I got to fiddle around with this a little bit because I don't remember the exact combinations of things that I needed to do here. I do want to make them out of Y and Z, but now I need to remember what the purpose of this was. I need to rotate on the X and the Y axis actually. That makes a lot of sense. Oh, what am I doing there? So I need to rotate on the X and the Y axis, not rotate on the Z axis. That makes a lot more sense to me. Does this do anything differently? No, not exactly. I'm trying to figure out what it's doing. I'm also not giving these things any background color, so it's kind of difficult to see what's going on. I did. For Y, I put translate C. Yeah, I think I fixed that now. But thanks for mentioning. Am I using the right things here? Oh, I see what you meant. I see what you meant. Okay. I see what you meant. I don't think that's going to fix the problem that I'm having right now, which is these axes are weird. So, let me have a look what I did in my previous code, because that's working a lot better. It's not that. Let's put block. Her. So what happens if you don't read and you just try and make guesses about code? So, Okay, so I bundled all of these. I've structured this slightly differently, where I accepted, I have like a create face method, and then I give it, wow, that highlighting. I give it the text of the side that it's supposed to be, and I get the background for that, which is now our texture method. But then I also define the sizes, the translations, and the rotations. And I have like a global scale thing that I apply to it as well. We've got the translations working okay. We don't need the translations exactly for the axes that I'm doing because they're supposed to spin from the middle, but the rotation is the problem that I'm having. And I had axes on these originally, and then I took them out for some reason. I don't remember. So I don't have example code of axes. But yeah. Do I need to specify a 0-degree rotation on the other axes? Surely not. Surely not. I don't think I need that. Can't imagine why I would. And I have position on them, just like I have position on the blocks. Although for the sake of being a pedant, I'll put this up here, just so that it's consistent with the other one. Yeah, what's going on? What's going on here, hey? That's pretty strange. What's interesting is that these appear to have different starting positions. What happens if I remove some of this stuff? No, I do kind of need that stuff to get it not to like plaster down here. I'm missing out something obvious, I think. What style sheets do I have? Maybe there's some CSS that I'm missing. Styles, block. So block, background none, outline, backface visibility, which I'll talk about at some other point, and then the ghosting stuff. What else do I have here? Main, entity, preserve 3D, transform origin. Well, let's put these in as well. Any better? So it has done the translation a little better. Oh, there we go. There we go. There's just something with styling going on. I mean, bizarrely, look down here. That's where the rendering is happening. But these are in a slightly different position, so I'm not really sure what's going on with that. Anyway. Why is that rendering down there? That's so weird. What else do I have in this? Pointer events, nothing. Surface has a translation on it as well. Do I need the stuff on scene? There we go. Okay, so preserve 3D and translation origin helped for the translation origin to be right at the center. MDN transform style. Let's look up what this is. because I don't remember. Determines if the children of the element are positioned in a 3D space or are flattened in the plane of the element. If flattened, the children will not exist in their own 3D space. This is not inherited and must be set on for all non-leaf descendants of the element. I should be able to take that off there because I'm not expecting to have elements nested below the block. Although, oh, sorry, no, I need that there because I do have a single level of elements in the block that have that. But let's put the transform origin on those as well. Okay. Here we go. We have our block, the container of which we don't want to see, but we have our X and our Y and our Z. Okay. We can actually take the background colors off them because I don't want that background color on. I just want their borders. But let's make them, they're very thin. Those borders are very thin. Let's make them a little thicker. Okay. So, I don't know why I'm getting a resize thing here. What's that resize icon for? So this is the 3D shape that we get to work with, right? Now, I have gone way over the time that I wanted to spend in the first half. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a quick break and I will be back in like 5 minutes. I just want to get something more to drink. I'll see you in a bit.